They focus on a lot of exponents here. Again, vocabulary words. Okay, if they had something like 2 raised to the 4th power, all right, I could say 2 raised to the 4th power. We say that, it's not necessarily true. The entire thing, 2 to the 4th power, means this entire thing is called a power. All right, I have a lot of people want to tell me that the power is just the 4, and it does sound like it when we say it, 2 to the 4th power, but when I use the word power, I really am meaning that entire thing. All right, because individually, the 4 is the exponent and the 2 is the base. All right, a power is made up of 2 things, and it's made up of a base and an exponent. Okay, so we're all writing this down. Anthony, stay with me. Writing it down, 2 to the 4th. All right, now we evaluate this. You guys are probably pretty good at the evaluating part. What this tells me to take the bottom number, which is the base, and write it down 4 times and put times signs in between them. I'm going to use dots. All right, so this means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Y'all knew that. All right, and most of the time, most of you can do that, right? 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. Okay. So here again, if we want to take a look at what the directions are going to say, they're probably going to say simplify 2 to the 4th, simplify it. All right, which means multiply it all out, figure out what the answer is. All right, whether or not you show that work, I don't care. All right, simplified answer is 16. So your directions are probably going to say simplify that, because I'm just doing basic arithmetic. Okay, so you've got to be able to do exponents to be able to do anything that's got an algebraic expression in it. Okay, and to do algebraic expressions and to simplify them or to evaluate them, you got to know order of operations. All right, you have to do math in a certain way so that everybody in the room gets the same answer, because if you don't do it in the same way, then we're not all going to get the same answer. Okay, so there is this thing called order of operations. Again, you would have done this in 6th grade, and then when you did it in 7th grade, then the problems would have got a little bit harder, and then you did it in 8th grade, and then the problems should have gotten even harder. Okay, but the idea is the same. All right, depending on what teacher you had. All right, they might have given you a phrase, a mnemonic to help memorize this. All right, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, that's usually the most common one. There's probably a zillion other phrases that your middle school teachers could have given you. All right, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now, the only thing that's really wrong with that, or I should say the only thing that I don't like about that, is when we write out this mnemonic like this and we write it in this order, all right, this gives the idea that you multiply before you divide all the time. And that's not always the case. This also indicates that you would add always before you subtract, and that's not the case. All right, these two things are of equal importance, and they have to be done left to right as they appear in the problem. All right, and same thing with add and subtract. They are of equal importance, and they have to be done left to right as they appear in the problem. All right, so don't think that you always add before you subtract, because you do not. All right, parentheses is what the P stands for. The E stands for exponents. All right, so we'll put parentheses here. And the E is exponents. Multiply, divide, add, subtract. All right, now, you don't always have to have parentheses. You don't always have to have exponents. You don't always have to have multiply and divide. And you don't always have to add and subtract. There's probably a million, if not more than a million different ways that I can write these types of problems. All right, they're going to have all numbers to start with. Then we will add the algebra into it with the variables. Okay, so let's try to do one here where I would divide before I multiply. let's do a 10 divided by 2 parentheses 3. There is only one right way to do this. All right, I have a lot of people that want to do, oh, well, I got to multiply 2 times 3 first and get 6 and then do 10 divided by 6, but 10 divided by 6 doesn't work out very nice, but it's okay even if it was. Here, let's switch it so it will work out. Let's not make that a 10. Let's make that a 12. All right, so I literally, and you see this on Facebook all the time. You see this on your Twitter accounts. You know how they put a math problem out there and then they want people to answer it and then everybody puts different answers. Okay. Half the people that are answering don't know what they're doing and they give the wrong answer because what do? A lot of people will look at this and go, oh, well, 2 times 3 is 6 and 12 divided by 6 is 2. The answer is 2. All right. Because they were probably remembering this and they forgot the fact that multiplication and division has to be done left to right. So then they just thought, oh, I got to multiply first and then I'm going to divide. All right. If you do that on this, it is the wrong answer. All right. I have to do multiplication and division left to right. Even though this is kind of squished together and there's lots of spaces over here, I still have to divide first. 12 divided by 2 is 6. All right, now I'm going to bring the 3 down with a set of parentheses. Okay, so we definitely will have lines of work when we do this. All right, 6 times 3 is 18. The correct answer is 18. All right, not 2. And everybody in the room's got to be able to get the same answer or math doesn't work. Okay, everybody in the room's got to get the same answer or math doesn't work. Okay, so that's an example of how this is often done wrong. All right, now let's just do some random ones. I can use curvy brackets for parentheses. I can use square brackets. All right, the problems will get a little bit longer than what you saw in middle school. All right, so let's do a little bit longer one here. All right, let's do a 2 with a square bracket. And then let's do a 15 minus 7 squared divided by 4. All right, and if you need to write the please excuse, whoops, my dear Aunt Sally, if you need to write that down when you do these problems and then go through things one step at a time, that works. All right, this says parentheses first. How many sets of parentheses do I have? I have 2. The curvy ones go together. The square ones go together. The deal with parentheses is you have to work on the inside most part of the problem. So I have to come in here first. So the very first thing I'm going to do is 15 minus 7. That ought to be 8. All right. So on your paper, I expect you to write down, when you're working this out, you write down the original problem. Everything that I don't change or don't touch comes down. So I must write the 2 down with the square bracket. Now, the only thing that we're working out in this first step is the parentheses right there. So I'm going to do 15 minus 7 and have 8. I'm going to remember that it is still being squared. And then I'm going to go ahead and write down the divided by 4 in the square bracket. All right. Algebra has lines going down your paper. Okay. Now, yes, I still do have a set of parentheses. So I really am still working on the P. All right. But I have to do the stuff inside the parentheses. Now, inside that set of parentheses, I still have to follow this. So inside here, I have to do the exponents before I divide. All right, so then the next thing I'm going to focus on is 8. All right, 8 squared, 64. So I'm going to keep my 2. I'm going to keep square bracket. I'm going to change this to a 64. I'm going to keep my divide by sign. I'm going to bring down the 4 and the square brackets. All right, so I've done some parentheses. All right, but I'm still working inside here, but I'm following this. Now I don't have any exponents in here, but I have some division. I didn't have multiply at all. I'm working on my division. Now, 64 divided by 4. Some of you can do this in your head. Some of you can't. All right, Chris, can you do that? Close. Did you say 17? How about 16? Close. You're close. All right, so that's 16. All right, I keep the 2. I keep the square bracket, I do 16. All right, now, even though that's square brackets, it's a number squished up against a bracket. So doesn't it mean multiply? It doesn't matter whether it's square or curvy. It doesn't make any difference. Dallas answered in. Yeah, 32. All right, but, and this is what your paper should look like. When you're doing these, you should have lines going down your paper. All right, regardless of what you got away with in middle school. All right, I expect to see lines going down your paper. All right, if you do not show your work and do this in Algebra 1 and train yourself to have lines of algebra down your paper, you're not going to be able to pass Algebra 2 because it just keeps getting harder and harder and harder. After Algebra 2 comes pre-calc. All right, you have to train yourself to do math the right way so that every time it gets harder, then the transition is just a little transition because you already know how to show your steps. Okay. Let's throw one more example in right here before we go to the algebraic expression ones. All right, let's say I've got a 2 to the 4th minus 1 all over a 5. All right, that's a quotient. It's got a horizontal bar. It's kind of like a fraction. It means divide. All right, 9 times out of 10, I work them out horizontally going down my paper because they look like this problem over here. When there's a quotient, this is the only time you work the problem across your paper, and you don't even have to. It just saves a little bit of space. All right. I have to do order of operations on top. I've got to, there's nothing on the bottom but the 5. All right. So I've got to do order of operations up here, which means I've got to take 2 to the 4th power first. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 times 2, 16. All right. So I am going to go across on this 16 minus 1. All right, kind of logically makes sense to go across. 16 minus 1 is 15. I want to get it to the place where I have a number on top and a number on bottom so I can divide. Comes out even. 15 divided by 5 is 3. All right, that's the only time I go sideways across the paper. All other times you should be going down. Okay, and if you wanted to do this down, you could, except it's just the quotient. It's going to be really long. It's going to take up a lot of paper. Okay. All right, now